Hey everybody, how are you doing? Welcome to the Friday night show. Well, guess what? Our Friday night show, Audiotopsy, got censored, okay? We had a program that was ready to go, and then we were told that it was blocked because of copyright infringement. So this is our solution. What we've done is we've taken the video and we've edited out all of the music, okay? So there's just a couple parts where the song is being played and I muted those parts, okay? They're not very long at all. The part where you would hear the music and look at the lyrics, you can still see the lyrics, but you can't hear the music, okay? Which is probably okay with some of you guys. Anyway, if you want to continue to watch the video here on YouTube, go for it. It's going to start here in just a moment. If you want to see it uncensored, you can go over to Rumble, which we will put the link in the show notes below, and you'll be able to hear it without it being muted. So that's what's going on. We kind of had to figure out something at the last minute, and this is our solution. So, hey, thanks again for tuning in and doing everything that you do. Here's the show. And just like that, it's Friday night again. What's going on, everybody? This is Audiotopsy. This is the show where three Christian friends who met together for the first time just about a month ago have decided to come on here and react to all kinds of different music. The song tonight, Kenny C picked out, is a little ditty some of you guys might be familiar with called Highway to Hell by AC/DC. So anyway, we're going to talk about that song tonight, and it's probably going to lead us into a bunch of different rabbit trails, and we're going to go here and there and who knows where, and talk about the band, talk about the singer who sang the song, and a lot of other stuff. So anyway, guys, how are you doing tonight?
Great.
Awesome.
Looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. I picked it, so I guess I will get all the flack if people hate it.
Well, yeah, we will put up your email. So, folks, this is Audiotopsy, and this is a little bit different from our normal show. We're doing something, and this is kind of an outreach where we're trying to, excuse me, say, hey, you want to see, what the Bible says about this band or about these lyrics? Come on over and check it out, and let us know what you think. You're welcome here, and if you don't know, and you're coming in on the Audiotopsy YouTube channel, or you're catching us on our Through the Black channel, we have a regular show that we do on a regular basis. It mostly pertains to supernatural, paranormal. This week we've been talking about theosophy and talking about Satanism and things like that. So we do it all with a biblical worldview, and we've been doing it for quite a while. And we, by the grace of God, we will continue to do it for a while. So anyway, guys, I guess let me ask Kenny first. Tell me about this song, why you picked this song, and what are your thoughts on this song?
Well, I will tell you, a lot of people may not know that I'm a music teacher. That's my full-time job. And I have a lot of kids that come in and want to play this song. And there's a lot of songs that I will not work with. And this is not one of them. Even though it is the highway to hell, there's a lot of stories and different things that go with it. And I will, as we go along, I'll give you some ideas and why I feel that way.
No, very good. Very good. Well, It's no, I think it's very interesting. I remember hearing this song when I was just a little lad, and of course, growing up in a Christian home, this song, we were warned about this song and this band, and I remember again. We talked about the album covers and the legends, the urban legends and the myths and all of these things. What does AC/DC stand for? And all of those things, we're going to bring them up tonight. And I think we covered enough in last week's show just about the importance of nailing down the truth. Okay, we want the truth. We don't want to just say, okay, this band sings this song, so they must be Satanists. Well, they're probably not Satanists. There's a lot of satanic bands out there, and when we come across one, we'll let you know. Okay, but hedonist, sinners, probably many of them probably grew up in church and they're rebelling. By no means are we endorsing the music, the people, the song, the lyrics, or anything like that. We're just here to analyze them again through the light of God's word. Vic, talk to me.
All right. So I was never a huge AC/DC fan back in the day, but of course I was
Neither is my
familiar
wife.
with
Go
them.
ahead.
My best friend in 9th grade was obsessed with them, so I knew a little bit about them. But one of the things that we talked about on the Ozzy show was just some of the rumor mill around these bands that would create all of this intrigue. And so I remember AC/DC, as well as Wasp and Kiss. Everyone was always trying to figure out if those were acronyms and if they stood for something. And a lot of times when they were trying to say what AC/DC stood for, it was all these satanic meanings. And then they tied it into the little thunderbolt that is in between the AC/DC, which obviously AC/DC is an electrical, term. And so to have an electrical, symbol wouldn't be odd, but that particular thunderbolt, the 3, it's the satanic S. It's very synonymous with a satanic sigil, and so that added to all of these rumors that AC/DC must have stood for something. And there were even rumors that AC/DC stood for sexual orientation because they went both ways. I remember my brother always saying that. And there were all of these rumors, and you never knew if they were true or if it was something that the promo department was stirring up to sell records. And we've talked a lot, especially in the Ozzy episode, about how much of this was intentional, how much was it really the band doing this because it was a representation of their worldview, or was it just it was going to sell albums?
Yeah. And no doubt, and I've heard those. And so one of the rumors about AC/DC that I heard when I was a kid, that it stood for Antichrist, Devil's Child.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, there you go, folks. There you go. See, I told you. But nobody listens to me, do they? So, but actually, the idea came from, I believe it was Angus Young's maybe sister, who on their sewing machine, it said AC/DC. It stands for alternating current, direct current. And they got the idea, from that. And that, of course, the story goes that she made a schoolboy costume for him as well. And that's his costume that he wears on stage. And, I'll be curious for the listeners out there just to comment what you know about these stories. And if you heard these stories as well. Okay. A lot of these things cannot be verified, right? And if the band has any kind of satanic connection or something like that, they'll usually come out and brag about it and tell you and say, yeah, like you mentioned Wasp, the band, one of the things that we heard that it stood for was "We are Satan's people." Okay. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that was true. But I think the other one, which I'm not going to mention here.
Hey, and Wasp also, if you don't know right now, Blackie Lawless is a Christian, and he's been putting out Christian music for a while now. Some really good stuff too, man.
Well, and yeah, Kenny, for those of us that have, for the listeners, they might recognize the song Golgotha, which is the intro to
Yeah.
last season that we use once in a while.
Great song.
Very powerful lyrics and powerful song, and just powerful sounding song. So yeah, I mean, that's great news. We love hearing that when anybody, gets saved, especially one of these guys. So
Absolutely.
if it can happen for Blackie Lawless, surely it can happen for Angus Young and the guys from AC/DC. So
yeah,
and
Ozzy as well.
and Kenny C.
Yeah. So why don't we jump into this, and we're gonna try to finish the song today. That's one thing that we haven't been doing, is finishing the song, because we forget. We go down a rabbit trail and we don't finish the song. So why don't we jump into this, and we're gonna take a look at these lyrics real quick, and listen to a little bit of this song, "Highway to Hell" by AC/DC. So obviously just some lyrics, setting the stage there, and just talking about there's nothing else that he would rather be doing than this activity right here. Okay. And the party life.
Mm-hmm.
And the question that we're going to be asking, is what does this song mean? I mean, the title of the song, the chorus of the song, it seems very obvious, what the song is about. And I think if we're honest, we can kind of say, maybe even if they didn't mean that, it is about that as well, right?
Absolutely.
So, but recently, sometime in the last couple of years, they've, the band has kind of revealed the inspiration behind the song. And Vicki, you heard about that, so
Yeah, I'm gonna read that right now. I had never heard this before. I thought it was pretty interesting. It makes sense. So the title is often attributed to a phrase AC/DC guitarist Angus Young used to describe touring in America. There is a much more literal explanation, however. Highway to Hell was the nickname for the Canning Highway in Australia. It runs from where lead singer Bon Scott lived in Fremantle and ends at a pub bar called the Raffles, which was a big rock and roll drinking hole in the 70s. As Canning Highway gets close to the pub, it dips down into a steep decline. No stop signs, speed limits, nobody's going to slow me down. So many people were killed by driving fast over that intersection at the top of the hill on the way for a good night out that it was called the Highway to Hell. So when Bon was saying, "I'm on the highway to hell," it meant that he was doing the nightly or weekly pilgrimage down Canning Highway to the Raffles bar to rock and drink with his mates. Ain't nothing I would rather do. Going down, party time. My friends are going to be there too.
Well, okay, if you say so, Bon.
I think that's the sanitized version.
Yeah.
It's great. Can I just say something here too, as a writer? When you're looking for something that's going to get hits, or it's going to garnish interest, or it's going to sell albums, or it's going to, have a hook, you need that hook. Mm-hmm. If I'm a band and I'm in the 80s and I'm like late 70s, early 80s, and I'm thinking, I want a hit, I want a gold album, I would probably go, okay, what's some of the greatest music out there ever written? Oh, Led Zeppelin. What was the greatest song? What made Led Zeppelin famous for the rest of the eternity? Oh, Stairway to Heaven. And then you flip it, like, oh, well, we'll do Highway to Hell. And you got the alliteration there, you got the two H's, and it could have just been a formula for how do we get a gold record out of this deal.
I just saw a meme this week that said that the fact that that Stairway to Heaven is a smaller path, and the highway to hell is kind of the expectation of what the path of how people are going. Like so many people are going on the highway to hell. It's wide, but the stairway is narrow. And that they put it as a jokey meme. But when I read it, I was like, that's pretty real. That's very real.
And then obviously the three of us know that the stairway to heaven that Led Zeppelin was talking about was not the stairway to heaven that that we're familiar with as Christians, or the path that we're on. Obviously, it was when you look at the album artwork, when you read the lyrics, and hey, if you want to play it backwards, there's something else going on there. We probably should do a show about backward masking sometime. That would be a fun show.
I listened to this song backwards and looked at the lyrics, and it was silly. It was like, it was just kind of funny. I was like, I don't know. You'd have to do it. There's a video on YouTube for it, but you can just look it up, and I was like, okay, nothing really good there.
So small little caveat here, Kenny. How do you backward mask in our generation, since they're not records, or are they actually still going to the records?
Oh no, I think a lot of them are just flipping they're just recording it, putting it on video, and we're just playing it backwards.
Oh,
just
gotcha.
simple. Yeah. They're not having to do the old spin the record, and much easier now,
Yeah, and then you don't ruin your record.
That's right.
One time I bought a Styx record at a discount store, and I think it was Kilroy was here, and there's some backward masking on it.
There is.
And I was trying to figure out what the heck does it say backwards.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find a way to play it backwards, but I couldn't. And my mom overheard me. She's like, "What are you doing? Are you playing that record backwards?" Like something like I was gonna summon something, No. She's like, "You better cut that out." So
I think that was Heavy Metal Poisoning.
Yeah.
The beginning of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember. I've done it before too. I don't remember what it is right now though. But
right. So, and of course, the band Petra did some backward masking as well. Do you remember that, Vicki?
Yeah, Judas Kiss, I think it was. Yeah, and it was something like, why? Don't quote me exactly. It's been a while. Something like, why do you serve the devil when you can serve the Lord Jesus Christ? Something.
Why
like
are you
that.
looking for the devil when you should be looking for God?
Yeah. And it was done by John Schlitt, the keyboard player at the time. I think that was his voice. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
He's a great singer.
Oh gosh, so there's so much talent in that band. So underrated.
Well, I think we'll have to do a backward masking show because we can get we will rabbit hole on this. I'm keeping myself like
maybe, yeah. I know. There's a lot more to it because there's a thing actually also called reverse speech. So yes. I've always wanted to do a show on reverse speech, but again, keep an eye out for that. Maybe that's something that we'll put out there, in the future. I don't know when, but yeah, it's very fascinating study. And I went deep into the reverse speech rabbit hole probably about 25 years ago. Wow. So, I was very well, I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I probably changed my thoughts on it, but yeah, maybe we'll do that sometime. And then we'll do a backmasking audiotopsy show as well. So, okay, well, why don't we jump into a little bit more? We're at the chorus now. Everybody knows this this part of the song. It's an anthem, and I think it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. So let's go ahead and listen. Okay, so
Wow.
Vicki Joy, what are your thoughts? Do you still think he's going to a bar?
It's getting a little more clear. It's crazy how you can listen to a song a zillion times, because this obviously comes on the radio. And
Right.
half those lyrics, I'm like, that's what he's saying? What? Because like you don't pay attention. And I'm the type where if I'm listening to a song I don't know, I'm really paying more attention to the guitar and the beat and stuff. But I had no idea he screamed "Hey Satan" in the middle of it either. Like, I don't know how I missed that. So the chorus is getting a lot more like brash and cocky, like and you get a lot of that talk when people talk about how like, see you in hell. Well, if heaven's like this, would rather be in hell. And like there's all these jokes about this great party that's going to go on down there and everything. And I don't know, maybe this is the part of the song where the few he's been kicking back has set in, and he's getting cocky, because now it's a little more in your face. It's not so much just a party and drinking with the mates. I mean, now he's invoking the name of Satan, and even with the "Hey Mama," and I don't want to go way off course here, but there is this whole rebellion in rock and roll, where a big part of the thrill of being a teenager and listening to rock and roll is the fact that it makes your dad mad and it freaks your mom out, and your mom, like Tom, the story you just told. And my mom was pretty cool, but I have an AC/DC story. We were driving in the car, and For Those About to Rock came on. And she was listening to the lyrics, and my mom was really cool. She really liked a lot of music, and she's listening to the lyrics, and she's like, did he just say, "For those about to rock, we salute you, fire"? And I said, yeah. And she's like, that's so stupid. But that's part of the appeal of rock and roll when you're a kid. It's like, they got my mom to crack,
Let's talk for a minute about the music of AC/DC. For me personally, I was never really interested in AC/DC because I thought every song sounded the same.
Exactly.
Like the vocals, the guitars, it just, when you're growing up and you don't have any understanding of music, you're just a consumer. I'm like, this didn't mean anything to me. I thought it meant a lot more to the people that were really, like the imagery, and just people that wanted to be, I don't want to be insulting, but it was this kind of a lower form of music, I thought. Now, when I got older, I saw a documentary about AC/DC, and I felt differently about them, So that documentaries do that sort of thing, right? And you're like, oh man, okay, now you understand the struggle or whatever, and you have a new appreciation maybe for what they were creating. Well, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on the music, Kenny?
Well, for me, it's also one of these things when I listen to it. And of course, like I said, AC/DC came across a formula that worked for them. And a lot of it was very basic chords. They also, the majority of their songs are power chords. And if you don't play an instrument, that's basically, it means it has the root and fifth of the scale. It's missing the third, which tells you whether it's major or minor. And they do that on purpose because a lot of it allows Angus Young to decide what note he wants to put in there. So he can make it major or minor. And there's examples of stuff where he's playing and he'll do a little thing. It was hard as a teenager learning to play the songs because his solos weren't just one scale. They would be a kind of an amalgamation of major and minor, and it gave such a flavor to it. It was pretty amazing. But also too, with this song in particular, it's also the thing I think about with Crazy Train. Here's AC/DC. They're singing about the highway to hell, and they're playing it. It's a major key. Now, it's not major like the set Ionian major. It's actually Mixolydian. And why it sounds so different is the chord structures, they have what's called a flat 7 in it. And the flat 7 chord is this kind of a very rock thing. They're borrowing the chord from minor, but it's not. So like when it gets into the chorus, when they're getting into the chorus and they're doing the E and they get into Highway to Hell, it's A, D, G, D, A. When they do that, they're in A, and it's really bright. And I think it's really funny is that like we're on the Highway to Hell and it's this bright 8 major chord, they go to the 4, the D, and then they go to this flat 7G. And that makes it not completely major. It makes it has a little bit of a bluesier sound to it. It's not so bright that you're like, oh, this is super happy. They put that G chord in there, which really is not in a major. It's a borrow. It's called modal interchange. And listeners can look that up and be like, what is that? What is he talking about? But I think it's really interesting because the chord progression is it's almost pop. And this is such a rock song, and they're singing Highway to Hell, and it's very bright. I mean, people are singing along with it, and that can be something that they may have done on purpose, or, I don't know. They have darker songs that I feel like they played that are way more occult and satanic than this one. This one people go for because it's blatant. Highway to Hell, he said, hey, Satan in it. But when you really go and look at stuff and things onto it, you're like, it's not as dark as it could be. And I sometimes think like that second line when he says, hey, mama, it is rebellious. Like, hey, mama, look at me. I'm in a rock and roll band. I'm going to hell. And I'm excited about it. And they're having this big party over it. And I think that's why the song was successful, because to the general public, it's, hey, man, we're having a party. I mean, that's why that works.
I wonder what it was like, because I was a little bit too young, and I'm not sure what year the song came out, but I wonder what the general public thought. You know what I'm saying? Back in the 70s.
Hey,
because I mean, it was one thing for Christians to have a response to this, but even the people that didn't go to church were like, okay, whoa, hold on here. Okay, this is a deal breaker. All right. Yeah. I like the stuff, Dirty Deeds or whatever. I don't know what came before. But we're not. Deal breaker.
Highway to Hell was earlier. But here's the thing.
Okay.
I can remember as a kid, I was not a musician, and the music I listened to was a little more pop. And I remember seeing this album in like Kmart and flipping through it, and the album cover terrified me. I was like, who are these guys? Angus has a little devil horns up, and he's got a tail, and it's this thing. And I thought, these guys are so dark and evil, and it scared me. And I didn't even know the song. It wasn't until later that I heard the song. But just the album cover, man, I was like, I don't know if you guys have a copy of that, but it's kind of tongue in cheek when I look at it now. But when I was a kid, it was like, oh my gosh, I can't listen to this. This is satanic.
If I remember correctly, I could be wrong about this. The record company might have tried to stop the band. I don't know if this album was released in America right away because of the title. I think that might be the case, but I'm not sure, because they thought an American audience would just do damage to their career. Okay. The record companies are about making money, and they knew, okay, this is America. I mean, it was a different place back then. Okay. Obviously now, back then, all the heavy metal bands, those guys were those satanic ones. Now it's all your pop musicians, right? Everybody's, all the popular music is satanic now. So I'm not sure about that, but I think I saw something on that recently where the record company was trying to, go hush hush on the Highway to Hell stuff in America.
Well, and it may have been, but think about this. 78 was when Van Halen's first album debuted, and the opening song on it was Running with the Devil. And even that itself was like, wow, this is, that's kind of, it's got serious connotations to it. And it wasn't until I started playing guitar where when I would listen to it, that stuff a little more, and was like, man, but that was before this song came out. So there was,
So, and again, I know we kind of keep throwing out this disclaimer, okay, or this explanation. Van Halen, Running with the Devil. When you look at those lyrics, when you know that band, they didn't have this, this evil, appearance, or this evil, basically, what am I trying to say? Reputation.
Right, like a cultic or anything.
Yeah, I think if you listen to Running with the Devil, you kind of got the idea, like, okay, he's just, a bad guy or something like that.
Sure. But think about this, man. With a lot of songs and a lot of artists like this, they were plugging away and working in bars, playing these songs before they ever got record deals. Van Halen, AC/DC, they're out there doing this stuff. And you think about the atmosphere that's in a bar. I mean, people are there to drink and go wild and stuff. So playing songs that kind of glorified that was kind of a big thing. So, because I mean, it's like today, you've got, there's even people say something like, even really normal pop songs, they'll say hell yeah in it, which to me is such a funny term to use for it. So, I got censored. I'm sorry.
Hey, let's go back and listen to this. I don't know that we need to listen through the chorus again, but I don't know where we're at in the song, if there's any more to this verse. Let's go back and listen to it. Okay. So, and yeah, you can skip ahead if you want. If not, then I'm not too worried about it. So go ahead. Yeah, just a little bit there. Go ahead. And that's okay. Technical difficulties, but
I think that's it. I think there's no more. The lyrics for the rest of the song are "Highway to Hell." That's it.
Oh, are they? Okay, that might be the end of it then.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, hey, maybe we did it right this time, and we went to the.
We got through the whole song.
Yeah. So I remember about maybe 19, 20 years ago, I used to work in this metal fabrication shop. And that song would come on, and there were people in there that were not Christian, but they didn't like that song because they just felt spooked out by it. They're like, okay, again, a deal breaker, like they were superstitious or whatever. They're like, yeah, I don't want to listen to this, because they knew they were on the highway to hell and they didn't want anything to remind them of it, or they felt like they didn't have any protection, like this song was going to curse them. You know what I'm saying? And I would laugh when the song came on, because I would watch them want to change the station or something like that. And I'm like thinking, man, this is relevant for you guys. It has meaning for you. This is what's going on. So, anyway, speaking of Highway to Hell and drinking, lead singer at the time, original lead singer of AC/DC, Bon Scott. The first thing I ever learned about this guy was how he died. Okay. He died partying, and probably a lot of the listeners know, choked on his own vomit. I mean, that's how it went down. So, I mean, how, it's poetic justice, is it? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, pretty ironic. And we mentioned this briefly on the Ozzy episode 1. Ozzy wrote a song, Suicide Solution, which was in honor of Bon Scott, who died having drank, the solution being a double entendre there for liquid and or whatever. So anyway, yeah, I guess I never really even thought about that, Tom, and that is really interesting. But when you look at the content of a lot of these rock and roll lyrics and just how empty they are and how shallow a lot of them are, and they revolve around the same kind of 3 or 4 themes usually. And I don't know if you guys have ever watched any of those old VH1 Behind the Music documentaries about like the rise and fall of these bands. It's like you would think they were scripted, because they're all exactly the same story, and they all end exactly the same way. There's this like rise to fame, and then there's this like just train wreck into the ground. And
Absolutely.
there are a few bands that have managed to keep themselves around for a really long time, like the Rolling Stones, and U2's been around, Metallica's been around. There's these bands that have managed to hover in there on the charts for 40 years or more. But when you look at the average lyrical content of most of these bands, and you look at their life and the trajectory it took and how they ended, I don't know if it's poetic justice so much as it's just inevitable that if you live for things that are this incapable of bringing any sort of lasting fulfillment, it's going to lead to just the inevitable end. I mean, those documentaries were so depressing. I stopped watching them. They were just sad that how these things that they glorified in their youth. I mean, we all have a lot of energy in our youth, and we can bounce back from things in our youth, and we feel like we're never going to get old. We feel invincible when we're young, but these lifestyles, they never fulfill what they promised. It's crazy to me how, given the trajectory of the lives of most rock stars, why so many people are still so driven to do it. You get a glimmer. I mean, you get a glimpse of that, but it's so fleeting.
How many rock stars? What's the magic number? And is it 27 or 28? How many died at that age?
27.
27. Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, Janis Joplin, some other one, Jimi Hendrix. So such a young age, right? And I remember when one of the guys, I'm not sure which one it was, from Smashing Pumpkins died. And somebody says, how many more is it going to take for, these people to learn to quit doing drugs or whatever? Well, nobody's ever going to learn. You know what I'm saying?
Taylor Hawkins just recently with Foo Fighters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He had all kinds of drugs in his system.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows, exactly. I don't know if they released an autopsy yet, but nobody's ever going to catch him.
Or audiotopsy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It doesn't matter.
I'm gonna
die. When you're being deceived. Okay, when the devil has you in his clutches, and you are going down, no speed limit. On the highway to hell. How relevant is this song for so many rock stars?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, almost. I bet 90%, man, at least. I will tell you, this is my personal experience that because I've played in bands my whole life and toured, and I got a touch of that pretty big aspect of playing. And hang on one second. My phone's getting a stop. Hang on. Okay. So when I was touring and we were playing a lot of House of Blues in big places around the country, and it was amazing because this was like what I've been working toward. But the further we got to where it got bigger and bigger and bigger, you end up being kind of like isolated. So you have this big high on stage with no drugs at all, nothing. I really wasn't at this point in my life. I didn't really. I drank some alcohol, but I didn't do any drugs or anything. But I watched people, and I would say, we would be in a van or a bus for 12 hours a day. And then for about 2 hours, man, you were on top of the world, and that adrenaline and all that. And you're like, man, you're playing rock. It's awesome. And then they separate you and take you off, and you go to your room, and now you're by yourself and you're waiting for your family. And I realized why so many people that were doing this resorted to drugs and alcohol, because they were really not very happy. And so it's kind of tough to get that. And I'm trying to. Sorry,
absolutely.
I agree, and I mean, what great customers to sell drugs to. They're the ones that have the money that can afford it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well.
That's right. And it's very accessible too. I'm gonna tell you, man. If you're there and you have any kind of aspect of, some kind of your addictive nature and all this kind of stuff, if you had any kind of like that stuff, it was there. It was available. If that level, you didn't pay for it, man. People were just handing it to you, giving you that stuff. And I saw it. And luckily I was at a time period where I was way past that stuff, but God saved me from that, because I realized that at a really high point in that career that wasn't what I wanted to do. And I watched, but I also understood. I was like, I get when you hear these stories, and you can even go back to stories like Bob Seger singing like, Turn the Page. These songs are about their personal experiences of touring all the time. And it's not easy, and it's definitely not, because I think people glorify that and look and see, man, I wish I could do that job and just play guitar or nothing else. It's great. And it's not all it's cut out to be, man. It's really a much darker industry, and there's a lot of stuff that you don't know until you see there. And I've seen lots of things that I won't talk about. At some point I might, but there's a lot of dark and occultic type things that I saw that shocked me. So, but yeah, I think that's a big issue with that, is just that it glorifies a lot of that, and the people, when you're in it, it's not, that's why they do that. That's why they do it. They're lonely, man. They're lonely, and they don't realize, man, all they need is Jesus.
Yeah. Amen. Praise God, and I just want to say that just for that little short testimony there.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful to be saved. When I look back on my life, I'm like, wow, that was a close one. I've had a few close ones, and I have had them connected to music. I don't want to really get into it tonight, but I used to have a record label, and I put out music. And just being in that part of the industry, it went to my head big time because people saw how quote unquote rock stars, were trying to get my attention. You know what I mean? Yep. And everybody told me, oh, wow, all those rock stars are looking up to you and you're so cool. And then, it went to my head. And anyway, that's a story for another time. Thank God he saved me out of that. You know what I mean? It all started off. I believe, the right way, but the enemy deceived me and took me, down a path that was, I was a mess. Anyway, I wonder what, and I'm not sure who penned these lyrics, but I wonder what they thought as they're writing these lyrics and, Bon Scott singing this song, if he had any clue that would be his demise. What a trade-off. Look at the price he paid for, the boasting. He got exactly what he wanted, pretty much in that song.
And that to me, you're absolutely right. It's like he's singing about it. He doesn't believe, I don't know what if he had any spiritual religious beliefs, if he believed in God. I don't know any of that from him. I've seen stuff of him prior to AC/DC, and he was not a rock guy. He sang some really weird poppy stuff in the 60s groups. So, but I think they get caught into that and they're going into it. And when you're in that level, partying and drinking and all that stuff like that, they're on top of the world, man. You're never going to die. You're young and you think about it. And
look at Freddie Mercury. Okay. He wrote the song Don't Stop Me Now, which is about the same thing. Right. It's about indulgence in all kinds of, sexual sin, drugs. And look at that. He knew that he was going to get AIDS because he was unwilling to stop his behavior and his practices. So look at the lyric. This is the exact same thing. Don't stop me now. And you listen to those lyrics. Okay. And he's talking about how, you call me Mr. Fahrenheit. You know what I'm saying? Right. You could do a comparison on these two songs and look where Freddie Mercury ended up. Okay.
I think that's even more interesting is after that, later on, of course, it was a song for the Highlander movie, but it was Who Wants to Live Forever. That song will destroy me every time I hear it. It makes me want to cry. I feel like at that point, he was already dying, and he knew he was dying. And you can hear in some of his music, some things were a little, it's almost there's regret. You can hear it in some of the songs like, this isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. And God will not be mocked, right? Whatever you sow, you shall reap. And this is these are examples of that. And you know what, Vic, you brought up some of these bands that have longevity, like the Rolling Stones. How in the world these guys survived? And somebody like Keith Richards, that walking zombie, is still alive. I don't know, but
but interesting though, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the members, was it Brian Johnson? He was part of the 27 Club, and
Brian Jones.
Thank you. And very suspicious. If you go into all the conspiracy theories around that, and that has to do with the Beach Boys too. And you're like the cleanest surf band, and they're in the middle of all that. I know satanic stuff that was going on out. It's mind-boggling. Yeah, absolutely. Around also. Yeah, and just even the links, like the way the Beatles and the Rolling Stones intertwined, because they were, neck and neck there competing for the number one albums and stuff, and they were friends. And you start going into the detail and some of the stuff that John Lennon was into, and the suspicions around the whole swimming pool and the house that Brian was at, and the rabbit trail goes very, very deep.
Very deep. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we're not going to get into this now, but I recently joined a group on Facebook that believes Paul McCartney died in the 60s.
The
So-
PID. Yep.
I've been down that rabbit hole. I have
So,
a student.
I'm not necessarily saying I believe that, but I joined it just to see what people were saying. And when I joined it, all of a sudden, my news feed was filled up with all of these stories, and they're like, "See, look at his earlobe and his earlobe. They're two different people, right?" So, anyway,
Remember, hey, so Paul is dead. Miss him, miss him.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, well, I was thinking about this earlier about the backward masking, because if you go into Sgt. Pepper and some of the post-touring albums, because there's a point where they never went on tour again, but they still released albums. If you talk to the people who go into the backward masking and all of the the hidden meanings, they say that they're all clues that he was really dead, and fascinating stuff. But yeah, a lot of backward masking in the Beatles albums as well.
Well, yeah, the Abbey Road, obviously, there was a ton of the cover of that, all the clues.
Yeah.
Hey, what's really funny? That story with Paul McCartney is being played out now with a pop star, Avril Lavigne. Same thing. They say that she's not the same person. There's so much stuff on the internet talks about it. They try the same thing. Look, her face is different, her tone's different. She's singing and all these things, and I'm like,
well, I mean, we're not going to go down this rabbit hole of Michelle as a man, but Michelle Obama. But there's a lot, there's a lot of things we could talk about, but we're trying to stay on the path, okay, and on
the highway.
Yeah, on the highway. Highway to Heaven was a good TV show. Anyway,
Michael Landon.
So I'm being informed that we probably just got a strike. I don't know what we.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess we'll see.
I would believe that.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, because Joan Rivers, when she talked about that.
Oh, right.
Didn't live too long.
Boy. Boy.
Afterwards.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So
I'm just saying that's what some people are saying. I'm not saying I'm
just
saying that.
It's out there.
People are saying Paul is dead and Michelle is a man. I'm not saying that. I think Paul's alive. Anyway,
strike two, sir.
Yeah. We're going to get them all in one show, folks.
That's right.
So, hey, listen.
For anybody that doesn't know, we used to have a YouTube channel a long time ago, and it got taken down.
Hey, I was going to say early on that I was going to tell you why I don't. This isn't a song that I won't teach to kids, because I will, the ones that are going to come into it, because I will tell you something. I think that there's a place, and I have a story. I have a young kid that came to me with autism, and he was pretty deep on the spectrum, did not really he didn't show any emotion, and he was very stoic, and up to a certain point in his life he couldn't even handle sounds, and his parents would talk about he would hide under the pew at church and stuff like this. Something at some point, watching YouTube videos, he came across AC/DC, and something struck with him with that, and they brought him to me for guitar lessons, and he just blossomed into this kid that can play this stuff. And I looked at the stuff and I said, at this point with it, I wasn't going to tell him, like, go into this part with that, because I think at this point with those kids, they weren't listening to it. He wasn't listening to it for a lyrical thing or feeling any kind of issue with it. He was just enjoying the music, the chords, and the rhythms and stuff like that. And I'll say this, that a lot of that, I think too, when we try to bring people to Christ, that if we spend a lot of time telling them all the things, like, hey man, you can't listen to this song, and I believe that this song is not something God's going to hold against you. Is like, you know what, you listened to Highway to Hell one time in 1983, and I'm sorry, man, that's enough for me to just, you're gone. And that's what I look at that and I say, because I feel like people this song can be interpreted in lots of ways. Now there are blatant satanic songs out there that I will say I won't play, and I will not teach it to your children. And I'll tell the parents, I'll say, I'm just going to show it to you. and you tell me what you think, and they go, oh yeah, and it's very blatant, and I'm like, I won't do any songs that are blasphemous to God, anything like that. But this song, there's too many variations of the story. Could it be? Is it tongue in cheek? It's just all of those things. I don't put it on a high pedestal of things that might make you like not be a Christian. I don't think this song is that. It doesn't have that much power to it.
Teach them the apologetics version. I bet the band Apologetics has a parody of this song.
Yeah, they do.
You may know what it is.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God!
I bet Katie could find it.
Come on.
Okay,
Katie.
hey, speaking of AC/DC and songs about hell, I thought about this. So listen to this, guys. So let's just go, put it all up on the table, tonight. I'll read you these lyrics, okay, to Hell's Bells. I'm rolling thunder, pouring rain. I'm coming on like a hurricane. My lightning's flashing across the sky. You're only young, but you're gonna die. I won't take no prisoners, won't spare no lives. Nobody's putting up a fight. I've got my bell. I'm going to take you to hell. I'm going to get you. Satan, get you. Hell's bells. You got me ringing. Hell's bells. My temperature's high. Now listen, okay? Kind of interesting, right? Now this is after the death of Bon Scott, okay? This is on the Back in Black album. I'll give you black sensations up and down your spine. If you're into evil, you're a friend of mine. See the white lightning flash as I split the night, because if good's on the left, then I'm sticking to the right. So interesting. And okay, yeah, we'll listen to this in a second. I won't take no prisoners, won't spare no lives. Nobody's putting up a fight. I've got a bell. I'm gonna take you to hell. I'm gonna get you. Satan, get you. And then it goes on. The song "Hell's Bells." That is, and again, not defending the band, but that's almost like a song from the point of view of Satan as the predator coming after. In a way, kind of like I wouldn't call it a warning, but almost as if they know what's up. What do you guys think about that?
The line that leapt out at me, because I don't know the lyrics to that song either. Obviously, I've heard it a million times, but my lightning's flashing across the sky. And, lightning is associated with, Lucifer, even though we won't go into the theological, disparages of that not really being his name and whatnot. But anyway, the King of Tyre, Jesus said, I saw Satan fall like lightning. And with the satanic S, that lightning bolt that we see symboled everywhere, like our power charger on our phone and things like that. It is this sigil to Lucifer, and Luciferians, I think, use that. But so that's the lyric that popped out at me when you see my lightning flash across the sky. That would indicate to me right away that the person speaking in that lyric is just like you said, Tom. It's this.
Yeah, and I'll think about this. 1979, when Bon Scott, when they released this, he died like 6 months after it was released, and AC/DC was blowing up huge at that point. So you think for a band, all of a sudden it's like, man, that really should have been the end of them. So what do they come back with in 1980? They come back with Back in Black, that was probably the biggest album they ever did, with a brand new singer. And the lead track on that album is Hell's Bells. And it's almost like, some ways I always looked at it and thought that they were like even more so going into that, hey, like Bon almost was a sacrifice. Like, now we're going to be bigger. And they were bigger then, which was much bigger deal there. So yeah, that song's that's a tough one for me.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing too with the sacrifice. Now, whether or not they legitimately knew that that's what was going on or not, but when you have all these artists talk tongue in cheek about selling their soul to the devil, and we've talked about this before, it can just mean that they're turning their back on their own conscience. And when you do that, you are open to these chain of events. And but there does seem to be this sort of payoff for the people that are willing to do that, whether they realize that that's what they're getting into or not.
I kind of thought with when I watched the story, they didn't really mourn a whole lot for Bon Scott, I mean, they found another singer and they hopped right back up on stage and got right back at it. And then they came out. I don't know. I mean, if you're singing the song Highway to Hell and then your singer, lives out those lyrics, literally.
Right.
There was no turning to Christ. There was no repentance. There was no like, whoa, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Maybe we shouldn't be singing this song or doing these things. Obviously it did not, convict them in the least.
Yeah. I don't think that I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it was that it was a conscious effort to come back with the song so associated, but at that point, Highway to Hell was the biggest song that they'd ever had out. I mean, they had stuff before that, but Highway to Hell was big. And at that point, I guarantee you some record label came to them and said, we got to go bigger, blacker, and darker, and more satanic. And that came out. That album cover it's just black, but that's still probably the biggest album they've ever had since then. So
have you seen any clips from Brian Johnson's show that's come out in the last couple years? Either of you guys?
No.
So I've seen some clips on it, and he kind of travels around the world meeting different people. Okay. And just friends of his that are musicians, and hangs out with them and interviews them, and just, they'll go, I'm trying to think of an example. It's a lot of people that you wouldn't suspect that would be friends with Brian Johnson, the lead singer of AC/DC. And man, the guy comes across as a very likable guy and a fun guy, and the sad thing is they are destined for the same place, that the Bon Scott went without repenting, without turning to Christ. They're going to be lost, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Tom, if I could just bring in a little bit of a biblical perspective here too, for people who might be interested. We have hell has kind of lost its fear. People talk about it's just a swear word. People just cuss. And, back in the day, if you told someone like, if you don't turn from these wicked ways, you're going to burn in hell. It was like, what? And there was a conviction and there was a fear there. And that's been lost. We've gotten to that same sort of generation that was talked about in the Old Testament, where they lost their ability to blush. We're just so beyond, we're so desensitized. And I think we lose a lot in the English translation, because there's actually many different references in the Hebrew and the Greek to various compartments and places. And the English just calls them all hell. And so there's parts of scripture that don't even make sense anymore, because it looks like it's hell, but it's not. And so we've got hell, and then we've got Hades or Sheol, which is the same thing. We've got Tartarus or Tartaru. We've got the lake of fire. We've got Gehenna. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about Gehenna, because it was interesting. Gehenna actually isn't hell. It's like a metaphor. It's a metaphor for hell. But the background on it is really interesting. So Gehenna is just a Greek transliteration of the Hebrew word Gehinnom, which was the valley of Hinnom. And this was a very specific place outside of the walls of Jerusalem. And it's mentioned in 2 Kings 16, 21, and 23 in those 3 chapters. This is where the Israelites who had turned their back on Yahweh would leave Jerusalem, which was the holy city with the temple. That's where they were supposed to be worshiping. They'd go outside the city at night, where no one could see them, and it was hidden. And they would do all of their idol worshiping and their sacrificing and their rituals. And their god at this point was Molech, who required all sorts of child sacrifice. And so this was also their garbage dump. So this is where all the people of the city would go outside of the city and they would dump their garbage. So then they would set fires to get rid of the garbage. But because there's new garbage being added every day, the fires were perpetual. If you said Gehenna or the Valley of Hinnom, that was the really gross place where baby parts were and sacrifices were. Garbage was there. The food that was rotting and stenching. This is where the lepers and the poor people were hanging out, digging through the trash, trying to find food. This was like this was just a horrible, smelly, stinky, like that's where you go to get sick. That's where the evil people go. And so this image of a burning, smoldering place of decay became synonymous, and it became this perfect metaphor for hell, where there will also be these burning and gnashing of teeth and sorrow and evil. And, you know, Kenny, you're talking about being on the road and how self-destructive that is, because you're separated from all things that make us human and sane, and you're alone and you're lonely, and then you've got guilt and shame, and your kids are missing you. And so this whole glamorized picture of hell that Satan has managed to get all of everybody 40 years old and younger to believe in, even the hell of the Bible is just like, oh, you know, it's this place, you know, and you have to just think deeper of just the filth. And when I think about hell, I don't even think in terms of like, oh, it's going to hurt, it's going to be painful. Like, I think of it more on an emotional level. Like, imagine being in a place forever and ever and ever where you are completely in a state of like psychotic, like depression. Am I muting out?
No, you're here. We got you.
Okay. I think more of just how the state of like psychosis you would be in when you get to a place where you're not only in constant pain, but no one there's your friend. No, everyone there is out for themselves. Everyone else is suffering. There's no comfort. There's no relief. I just think about what that would do to the mind, what that would do to the emotions. It's a total destruction of everything that we would need to have comfort.
I totally agree with what you're saying with that. For me personally, it was always like, I think it's interesting that they've made hell into this thing that's like this fun place and all this. And when I think about it, it's the aspects of the burning and pain on stuff is nothing worse. That's okay. I mean, I'm okay. I'm like, you know what? That doesn't bother me as much as being separated from God.
Yeah.
But that's where I am now. And I think that's where a lot of people don't understand, is that to me would be hell, would be not having God in my presence. And I think that's a big part of it too, that what you're talking about with Gehenna and all that stuff. But you know, that's a symbolic, and it was a literal place, and people think of that as hell. And then all of a sudden now we're talking about, I'm on the highway to hell, and it's a party, and you're like, how did we get there? How did we get there? That's hard. It's hard for me to believe now, but I'm a Christian now. But earlier I never thought about it that way.
No.
Yeah.
If you don't know God, you won't know what it would be like to be without God.
Right. You know what?
That's a different thing.
When you read the account of the crucifixion in the Bible, I mean, there was a lot of torture and stuff going on before he actually even got on the cross. And we don't get any sort of a picture that as he was being whipped and beaten and mocked, like you don't see him kind of like crumbling under the pressure of that, right? He had some trouble carrying his cross. He was physically weakened at that point. The point that he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? The point where he was like, I cannot take this, was the point where God's presence left him. Now he was alone. So it wasn't that, okay, now there's nails and I'm bleeding and I'm having trouble breathing. It's when the presence of God left him, he could no longer, even in a deified state, handle what the reality that was his new reality. And so when he was in the garden and said, God, let this cup pass from me, that's the cup that gets passed from those who receive him. Those who don't receive him, the cup is not passed. And what is in the cup? The wrath, the full wrath of God. And so to your point, Kenny, it's like, okay, feeling like you're being burned for the rest of your life, that's one thing. But having this eternal separation where the only thing in the world that will ever offer you peace, love, joy, or hope is removed from you permanently. I can't fathom what that would feel like.
No.
I believe that the most confident atheist in the world still in the back of their mind or in their subconscious knows that they can call upon God. They have that security that they could call upon God, that he is within reach. Okay. and that's going to be taken away in hell. Anyway, we're reading a lot of lyrics, and this I thought about this yesterday as we were, preparing to do this song, and this lyric, I remember this lyric by a band called Bloodgood, and they have a song called Self-Destruction, and I think this is relevant to what we're talking about tonight. So listen to these lyrics as we get ready to close out the show. We're going to listen to this parody as well. But this is a song called Self-Destruction by a band called Bloodgood. Pathway to heaven or highway to hell, which one you're on is easy to tell. Live for yourself, no time for the sun. Don't blame God for your own self-destruction. When it's all over and your life is done, no more chances, no place to run. You judge yourself if you turn away. Let him in, do it today. And think about Bon Scott as I'm reading this, okay? The life you're leading is going to cause you grief. You run from love, choke on disbelief. You say God is dead. See what you've done. Don't blame God for your own self-destruction. So anyway, I think very relevant in what we're talking about today.
You know what I also think too with that, like you said, that's a great song. And the hardest fact with this is that song is preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
I know what that means. Yet I guarantee you that most people have never heard of Bloodgood or that song, because it is basically suppressed underneath this musical system that they have. That's not going to be put out there on a grand thing. That, to me, that song, I would love to hear it everywhere. Everybody should be hearing that and know what's going on with it, and yet it's not. So
hey,
says a lot about the world.
Kenny C, speaking of that, I can't quit listening to this new app called Blast.fm, and it plays Christian music. These guys are not a sponsor, but for a week and a half, I can't quit listening to it. It plays. It's got 4 stations on it. And it plays all the old Christian music. It plays new Christian music. It's got a channel for hip hop, and then I don't know what the other one is. So anyway, if you go to blast.fm, anybody listening out there, you can listen to amazing, amazing Christian music. I love listening to it because I'm learning new stuff. But then, every other song is a song I know. The production and the programming is amazing. I can't recommend it enough if you like Christian music.
Hey, I will say, even the algorithms we have so much trouble with, like Spotify, if I go through and play a couple of the songs I love of groups, I'm listening to, like, Striper, a couple other stuff, and then let that become a radio, I get to hear a lot of cool stuff I've never heard before. Like maybe some odd Bride tracks I didn't know, because they have a pretty huge collection of stuff, and I'll be like, man, I've never heard this song before, and it was, just cool. So that's awesome. I got to check that out. Blast.fm.
Yeah.
I got to check that. That sounds amazing.
So let's listen to a little bit of this this band called Apologetics here, and I'm sure I've heard this before. I just took a guess, thinking they had a song. So I can't even tell what this is. So go ahead and let this play. It's a parody in a way of Highway to Hell.
Save me, please. Make my every single sin wash white. So many reasons for me to fry, because of all the bad I do. Slow me down, throw me a line. I never want a barbecue. I want to fly away from hell. I wanna fly away from hell.
Okay, there you go. You get the picture. I want to fly away from hell. I'm sure I've heard that before, but I've forgotten about that. That band has so many songs, and I think my favorite one is about the cows. It's an ELO parody. I can't remember what it is now, but yeah.
I gotta look that up.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I like that. I want to fly away from hell. Those lyrics. Now, a lot of times their songs are about something like completely different, like mostly like straight out of scripture. But that one there was just like the opposite of Highway to Hell.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I give props whoever the lead singer was. That's not easy to sing.
yeah.
That's not easy to sing at all.
AC/DC is an acquired taste, I think, because the raspy vocals, the guitar tone, the specific distortion, people are just like, you see their face, if they're not an AC/DC fan. If we're out somewhere or an AC/DC song comes on, my wife has no problem every time letting everybody know I don't like this band. So anyway, any closing thoughts, my friends, as we look to the end of another week here at Audiotopsy?
Yeah, Tom, I just kind of want to let listeners know we can do kind of what our parents did and freak out when we hear songs that say "Hey Satan" in it or "Highway to Hell" and get that out of my house. And we can take that approach if you want, but we can also take the approach of, let me sit down and listen to that with you. What are the lyrics? Let's go through the lyrics. These are opportunities through music, not only to get an idea of what are my kids listening to, because I'd like to know, and not just with rock music, with the pop music. The pop music is just as bad, if not worse, at this level. So just kind of what we're trying to do here on this show is let Christians know, like, hey, rather than freaking out over this stuff, let's really evaluate it. And maybe there's even a way to talk truth out of this, or to contrast this with truth, or get the truth out there. So we don't have to become fans and give money to these bands and go to their shows, but it doesn't mean that listening to them might provide an opportunity for growth with your kids or with their faith. Good
advice.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that. It's like I said, I think what Vicki was saying is kind of what I was thinking about also, is that I like to let kids kind of come with stuff and you can talk to them about it. And like I said, this song's got such a tongue-in-cheek thing, even though it keeps saying "Highway to Hell," my highway to hell. I always say, do you know the story of Bon Scott? And they're like, no, what happened? And I'm like, here he died at 29. And that, and you're always like, hey, guess what? The end story in reality is he died. He didn't got to live. And we don't know what his circumstance is, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't a Christian. So it's a sad ending to that song itself. So there's teaching things with all of these. I always feel like sometimes we have to be careful to not, like I said, as a parent with children, of just going like I said, it's a great teaching aspect to be able to listen to it with them and know what's going on with it, and then they can grow to what's going on to it, and then you can move them on to some great Christian music, because there's some really good stuff out there. So that's even better than the secular stuff.
I think the listeners and you guys agree, music is powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Very powerful, all kinds of music, and maybe this isn't your taste. Maybe you like something else. Most people like music. I don't know too many people that don't like some kind of music. I've seen people that aren't really fans, that are just like, it's just background noise, but there's a lot of people has some kind of music that they prefer. And it's powerful. It hooks you. It pulls you in. I've been having conversations with my son about this. And, it's the old illustration. If you put a bunch of poison on the table, probably nobody's going to, go over there and eat some. But if you put a bunch of poison candy on the table, it's more appealing. And that's what a lot of this music is. It's poison candy. And it tastes real good. It sounds good to the ears. And we didn't even know a lot of the lyrics, and we've heard this song, a lot. I didn't know either that it said "Hey Satan" in the lyrics, and it's pretty blatant, right? So Vic, I think what you said was so important about not overreacting about the music. Okay. when we do that, we can drive our kids to it. Okay.
Mhm.
I think we need to lovingly engage not only our kids, but others too. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, are we going to go up to people on the street and just saying, hey, you got to quit listening to that music? That's not going to win them over. You know what I'm saying?
Not at all.
You're not going to win people over by just condemning them. Okay. I think the best way is to say, hey, there's hope. There's a better answer. This is a dark road, the highway to hell. But man, there is something so much better. Bon Scott was chasing this fun, and he probably didn't even have happiness, you know? But serving God, you can have peace, joy, hope, and happiness,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely.
So, the Christian life is a good life. And even if we feel like everything is falling apart, we still have peace because we know we have the hope of heaven. So anyway, guys, we just appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We want to hear, you know, what are your thoughts on the band, on the song? And I'm sure you guys will chime in and let us know what you think about us covering this song. Hey, that's okay too. We're checking everything out. We appreciate you guys just giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel and sharing the song. You might know somebody that likes this music. What will people think if you share this video with this thumbnail on your social media? They'll be like, whoa, so-and-so is really going over the edge this week. I don't know, but hey guys, we will see you next week. God bless. Hey folks, I just met the witches and Satanists, and they're going to allow me to do an interview with them. So let's see what happens.